Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the previous video, we have studied about the type of liquid solution such as ideal solution and the non-ideal solution. In case of non-ideal solution, which shows the positive deviation from the ideal behavior, and the one that shows the negative deviation from the ideal behavior. In the today video, we will study about the trick in order to learn the examples of the ideal and the non-ideal solution, or we can say that how we can differentiate the ideal solution examples from the non-ideal solution. So in case of ideal solution, the two components that we mix to form the solution, they must have the similar size and the similar mass. There is a very little differences in their size or in the mass. In case of non-ideal solution, that shows the positive deviation, the one of the component, it may be alcohol, it may be carbon tetrachloride, and it may be carbon disulfide. And in case of non-ideal solution, that shows the negative deviation, the one of the component may be acid, it may be aniline, or it may be a compound like that CHX3. Here X is an halogen, means that this compound may be chloroform, it may be bromoform, it may be iodoform, with a compound that contain the oxygen and the nitrogen at. सो बेसिकली इसका मीनिंग क्या हुआ कि अगर हमारे पास कोई सोल्यूशन है जिसके अंदर वन ऑफ द कंपोनेंट इज़ एन अल्कोहल, सो इट इज़ एन एग्जांपल ऑफ positive deviation. If the one of the component is acid, so it is an example of negative deviation. If one of the component is aniline, so again it is an example of negative deviation. So now we are discuss about the examples. Firstly, we will discuss about the example of the ideal solution. So we have benzene plus toluene. So benzene and toluene, they differ from each other. If we replace the hydrogen of benzene by the methyl group, so we get the toluene. So there is a very little differences in their size, in their mass, or we can say that there are the similar forces of interactions are there. So they are the example of the ideal solution. The next example we have the hexane and heptane का combination. So hexane and heptane both also they differ from one another only by the CH2 unit. So they are also the example of the ideal solution. The next one we have ethyl chloride plus ethyl bromide. They also differ one of the halogen. In one component we have halogen is chloride, and in the another component we have bromide. So there are the little differences in their mass and size. So they are the example of the ideal solution. The next example we have N-butyl chloride plus N-butyl bromide. So again in the butyl chloride and butyl bromide, halogens are replaced. So there are not so much differences in their size and mass. So they are also the example of the ideal solution. The next one we have the chlorobenzene plus bromobenzene. This is also an example of the ideal solution. The next, in that case, we also have an exception. We have the combination of carbon tetrachloride. We have the combination of carbon tetrachloride and the silicon tetrachloride. As the carbon tetrachloride is one of the component of the non-ideal solution, that shows the positive deviation. But in that case, the two components, we have the CCl4 and SiCl4. Here the carbon and silicon, they belongs to the same group, so not so much differences in their size. So therefore that is also the example of the ideal solution. Okay, so now examples of the ideal solutions are clear. Now we are discuss about the examples of the non-ideal solution. Firstly, we will discuss about the examples of the non-ideal solution that shows the positive deviation from the ideal behavior. So as we have studied earlier that the one of the component may be alcohol, it may be CCl4, or it may be carbon disulfide. So examples include, first we have ethanol. Ethanol is an alcohol plus toluene. So that is an example of the non-ideal solution that shows the positive deviation. The next one we have the CCl4 plus acetone. So this is one of the component of the positive deviation. So therefore it is an example of the non-ideal solution that shows the positive deviation. The next example we have the carbon disulfide plus acetone. The next one we have ethanol plus water. They are also the example of the non-ideal solution, shows the positive deviation from the ideal behavior. The next one we have ethanol plus acetone, as the ethanol is an alcohol. In this case we have the two exceptions are there. First one is the acetone plus benzene का जो combination है that belongs to the non-ideal solution, shows the positive deviation. And we have the carbon tetrachloride plus chloroform. This is also an example of the non-ideal solution, shows the positive deviation. Okay, now we have the non-ideal solution that shows the negative deviation. In that case we have said that one of the component may be acid, it may be aniline, or it may be chloroform, bromoform, iodoform with a compound containing the oxygen and the nitrogen atom. So examples include, first we have acetone plus chloroform. So acetone contain an oxygen atom, so therefore it belongs to this category, so it shows the negative deviation from the ideal behavior. Now the second one we have the nitric acid. Nitric acid is a strong acid plus water, so this is an example of the solution, shows the negative deviation. Now we have acetic acid. This is a weak acid, so acid falls in this category. Next we have the ether plus chloroform. So chloroform plus ether. Ether is an oxygen containing compound, so this examples also comes under this category. Now we have phenol plus aniline, so this falls also under this category, so that is an example of the non-ideal solution that shows the negative deviation. The next one we has the CHBr3. This is bromoform, plus we have C2H5NH2, means that a compound containing the nitrogen atom, so that is also an example of the solution, non-ideal solution that shows the negative deviation. In this case also we have an exception, that is the chloroform plus benzene, because we have said that the chloroform, bromoform or iodoform may comes within combination with a compound that contain the oxygen and nitrogen atom, but the benzene does not contain any oxygen or nitrogen, so this is an exception which we have to learn. Okay, these two exceptions we can learn by using their initials. If we have acetone plus benzene, means that AB, so we can use the initial AB. In case of chloroform plus benzene, we have the benzene ka initial B and chloroform ka C, so we can learn them by using the initials as the AB and BC. So these are the exceptions which shows the positive deviation from the ideal behavior, and the chloroform plus benzene combination that shows the negative deviation from the ideal behavior. सो बेसिकली हमें क्या ध्यान रखना है कि जो नॉन आइडियल सॉल्यूशन हैं जो पॉजिटिव डेविएशन शो करते हैं फ्रॉम दी आइडियल बिहेवियर से, उनके अंदर जो वन ऑफ कंपोनेंट है, इट मे बी अल्कोहल, इट मे बी कार्बन टेट्राक्लोराइड, और इट मे बी कार्बन डाइसल्फाइड. And in case of negative deviation, it may be an acid, may be aniline, or it may be chloroform, bromoform, iodoform in combination with a compound that contain the oxygen and the nitrogen atom. And for the ideal solution there is a very little differences. The components are nearly similar, they just differ only with by the halogen or by the smaller units, so they have the just similar size and the similar mass. So this is all about the trick to learn the examples. I hope this trick help you to learn the examples of the ideal and the non-ideal solution that shows the positive deviation and the negative deviation from the ideal behavior.